Please, sir. Just one more week, the maid whispered, clutching her apron with trembling hands. She had worked in that mansion for years, pouring her life into service. But the white millionaire's reply was cold and sharp. Get out of my house, now! You're nothing here. Her heart sank. No warning, no kindness. Just the echo of a slammed door and the weight of humiliation pressing down on her shoulders. She thought no one cared. She thought she was alone. But someone powerful was watching. Someone who knew her struggle, because he had lived through worse. A black billionaire. And when their paths collided, everything changed. The only question is, changed for whom? It was supposed to be just another day. Marjorie Williams, a 32-year-old black maid, tied her grey uniform neatly and smoothed the front of her apron before stepping into the millionaire's grand mansion. She had worked there for nearly 5 years, quietly moving from room to room, polishing chandeliers that weren't hers, setting tables she could never afford to sit at, and raising a smile for guests who barely remembered her name. To most of the house she was invisible, but to her this job meant survival. Every paycheck was food on her table, rent for her tiny apartment, school shoes for her little boy. "Good morning, Mom," she would whisper politely to the millionaire's wife, even if the woman never looked up. "Don't be late again, Marjorie," the head butler snapped one afternoon. She nodded quickly, hiding the sting in her chest. She couldn't afford to argue. Marjorie had learned to swallow insults, to keep her head down, to survive in silence. But deep down, she often wondered, how long could she keep living this way? That evening, as golden light poured through the tall mansion windows, Marjorie carried a heavy tray into the dining hall. Laughter echoed from the guests, glasses clinked, and the millionaire sat proudly at the head of the table. She placed the silver plate in front of him carefully, steadying her hands. And that's when it happened. A single mistake, a moment she could never take back. The room grew silent. The millionaire's eyes narrowed, and Marjorie's world was about to shatter. The tray slipped, just slightly. A glass of red wine toppled over, spilling across the pure white tablecloth like a spreading wound. Gasps filled the room, forks froze midair, and all eyes snapped toward Marjorie. Her heart stopped. I'm so sorry," she stammered, quickly grabbing a napkin, blotting the stain with trembling hands. But the white millionaire, Charles Whitmore, pushed back his chair with a slow, deliberate scrape. His voice was calm at first, but laced with venom. "Do you know how much this tablecloth costs?" Marjorie's lips parted, but no sound came. She lowered her head. "I'll clean it, sir." "Please, clean it," Charles barked, standing now, towering over her. "You've ruined it." His words sliced through the air. Some guests shifted uncomfortably, others smirked behind their glasses. His wife glanced away as if pretending not to see. "Get out," Charles spat. Marjorie froze. "Sir, it was an accident. Please, I need this job. Out!" His voice thundered, echoing across the glittering hall. The head butler stepped forward, his face stiff. "You heard the master. Leave before you make more of a mess." Her chest ached as she looked around the table. Not one person spoke up, not one defended her. Years of service erased in seconds. She removed her apron slowly, each motion heavy with humiliation. The room watched her like an audience at a cruel play. But as Marjorie stepped back, Charles's words cut deeper. "You people never change," he muttered, just loud enough for the guests to hear. "Always clumsy, always begging." Laughter rippled among some of the men at the table. Marjorie felt heat rush to her face, tears burning her eyes, but she held them back. She would not let them see her break. She pushed through the mansion doors into the cold night air. Her hands shook as she fumbled for her phone, whispering to herself, "I just need to get home. I just need to hold on." What she didn't know, what Charles didn't know, was that this moment, this cruelty, had been witnessed. Across the room, among the sea of wealthy guests, sat a man who had been quiet all evening. His skin was dark, his suit tailored perfectly, and his eyes followed Marjorie with something none of the others carried: recognition. His name was Darius Cole, billionaire, self-made, and no stranger to the sting of being treated as less than. As the door closed behind Marjorie, Charles turned to his guests with a laugh, brushing off the tension. "Now where were we?" "Ah yes, the deal." But Darius didn't laugh. His jaw clenched. His hand tightened around the stem of his glass. He had come tonight to discuss business, but what he had seen could not be ignored. Later, as the guests mingled in the marble foyer, Charles caught Darius's eye. "Mr. Cole, glad you could join us tonight," Charles said smoothly, reaching for a handshake. But Darius didn't smile. His eyes were sharp, burning with something Charles couldn't quite name. "Funny thing about respect," Darius said slowly, his voice low enough to draw curiosity from those nearby. "It tells the world more about you than the person you give it or withhold it from." Charles's grin faltered. The room grew quiet again, because everyone sensed it. Something was about to happen. And this time, Marjorie wouldn't be standing alone. The grand foyer buzzed with chatter, but all eyes turned when Darius Cole stepped closer to Charles. His voice was calm, but every word struck like a hammer. "You threw her out like trash," he said, his gaze steady. "A woman who gave you years of loyalty. And you laughed." Charles's smile twitched, trying to mask discomfort with arrogance. "Come now, Mr. Cole. Surely you're not here to lecture me about the help." Darius's jaw tightened. "The help? Is that what you see when you look at her? A servant beneath you?" Whispers rippled through the guests. Phones began to rise, recording. Charles noticed and scoffed. "She made a mistake. People like her always do. That's why they need people like me to keep them in line." The words landed heavy, a venom dripping into the air. Marjorie, who had hesitated near the doorway, froze. Her chest ached as tears she had fought so hard to bury now threatened to spill. Darius turned, finding her eyes across the room. For a moment, the entire world seemed to stop. "You deserve better," he said firmly, his voice carrying across the marble floor. "You are not invisible. And tonight this room needs to remember that." Charles laughed bitterly, raising his glass. "And what will you do, Cole? Buy her dignity back? Money can't change what people are." The laughter died quickly when Darius stepped forward, his voice booming now, unshakable. "Money didn't give me dignity. Hardship did. Struggle did. And people like you," he pointed directly at Charles, "remind me why I fight every single day to prove you wrong." The crowd erupted. Some gasped. Some clapped. Others shifted uncomfortably under the weight of truth. Marjorie's knees weakened, but for the first time in years, it wasn't from fear. It was from the shock of finally being defended, publicly, boldly, without hesitation. Charles's face reddened. He opened his mouth, but the noise of the crowd drowned him out. His power in that moment was slipping, and everyone knew it. The question was, what would happen next? The night didn't end the way Charles expected. For the first time, his arrogance wasn't met with silent agreement. It was met with resistance. Phones had captured every second. Whispers spread quickly, and within hours the story of the Maid and the Billionaire was circling social media. Marjorie sat in her tiny apartment that night, still shaken. But when her son asked, "Mama, why are you crying?" she pulled him close and whispered, "Because tonight, someone finally saw me." The next morning, she woke to hundreds of messages, strangers offering her jobs, others sending words of encouragement, people telling her, "You are not alone." Charles, meanwhile, found himself at the center of outrage. Investors pulled away, partnerships dissolved, and his smug laughter had turned to silence. His power wasn't untouchable after all. And Darius? He didn't just defend Marjorie that night. He reminded everyone watching that dignity is not given by wealth or titles. It's a truth we all carry. But here's the harder truth. Marjorie's story isn't unique. For every time someone speaks up, there are countless more moments where silence wins, where a person of color walks away humiliated, unseen, unheard. The stain on that white tablecloth wasn't just wine. It was a symbol, a reminder of the way racism tries to mark lives, leaving scars that people pretend not to see. So the question we're left with is this: how many more Marjories have to endure this before we finally say enough? Because the fight against racism doesn't end in a mansion's dining room. It continues every day, in workplaces, in schools, in the streets we walk. And maybe the real question is, when the moment comes, will you stay silent like the guests at the table? Or will you stand up like Darius did? If Marjorie's story touched you, hit like to stand against injustice. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories the world needs to hear.